Hey, Business Ventures Podcast, episode 6. I got my good friend David Carroll with us today. And Dave is a man that usually doesn't need any introduction, but I'm going to go ahead and give it a shot. David Carroll has made such a huge name for himself in the home service industry and every industry because he's taken his knowledge of marketing and data and brought it full front into our industries through direct mail of all things, right? So,
Thanks.
Dave, man, thanks for joining us today, brother.
Thanks for having me, man. I'm battling this. So it's April 2nd that we're recording this.
Yep.
We just got like 4 or 5 inches of snow in Minnesota. It was not for April Fools. It was serious, and I'm battling the. Allen's over here looking so crisp and tan and good in his studio, and otherwise I'd be in the office. But I got this snow light coming in. So
Yeah, I just asked you to pull the blinds down just
no,
because you
we
were
got
kind of
5 kids. These blinds got to
blinding
go down.
me because
Yeah,
the
no.
light's coming off your head and it makes
Ambiance
it
of
tough,
the yeah,
you
I
know.
should have cut my hair this morning. I really could have used some.
Oh man. Well, I know we've talked about this podcast. You've got one you just started up, but
Yeah.
I try to do mine a little bit different. You know, I was locked into that corner of the commercial roofing radio that we could only talk commercial. And I even wanted to have you on that, but I'm like, man, how in depth can I go in with Dave on commercial roofs, right? Like we can figure out how to market it. We can talk about
Something,
it.
something.
But this is Business Ventures Podcast, and we take a deep dive into entrepreneurs. And I want to know what makes you tick. I want to know your childhood. How do you think that had an effect on your success, and really all of it. And
Yeah.
so I typically just go in order, chronological order. Let's start there. Let's talk about Dave's hellion early years. Like I'm sure you were an outrageous kid growing up in Minnesota, right?
Grade A student, never got in trouble.
Okay.
So yeah, I was born and raised in St. Paul, Minnesota. Um my parents were married 3 times each.
Oh
Mom and
wow.
dad knew each other in high school. Um Dad went off to college. Mom was dating another guy. They ended up moving back in the same cul-de-sac, having 3 kids each. Ran off with each other. So I have 3
Oh
older
wow.
brothers and sisters, and I didn't find this out like completely all the details until my mom passed 2 years ago, and we sat down with my older brothers and
Wow.
sisters. I knew like snippets of it, but never got like the full story. So mom and dad ran off, had a pretty wild 5 years. Me and my younger brother are my only full siblings.
Full sibling. Yep.
There was 7 miscarriages in between
Wow.
me and my brother. Yeah, they were living a wild life. I mean, I always compare it to just like it would be saddest day of my life, but imagine you get divorced and but then you meet the the Instagram model or something and you're running off living crazy for 3 times. Like that
Yeah.
was the equivalent of this if they had the internet back
Go
in these
full
days.
Bonnie and Clyde and just
Oh,
take
dude,
off,
just
and then you
Vegas
get to
and
have love
stuff
child
and
Dave.
just yeah, exactly right. Um, so they had a pretty wild 5 years, ended up getting divorced. My mom got remarried. Harry, my stepfather, was kind of like the father figure for my brother. But by that time, I was already like out fucking around, trying to get attention in the wrong places. I think I was
Mhm.
my parents got divorced when I was 5, and I started like really like the signals and stuff of just not really wanting to do what kids should want to do at like 11 or 12. Very cliche, hanging out with the older kids, getting in trouble, smoking weed, stealing shit, just like getting into it. And then
Well, looking back on that, do you think a lot of that had to do with, attention, or was it, like, money motivated? Or was it like,
no,
"Hey, I wanna go
I didn't I
out
mean
and"
that came later. I think when I got
Oh,
exposed to like large amounts of money at a younger age, but that was a couple years in the future. I think I was just looking for acceptance somewhere, looking for like some level of attention. My mother, bless her heart, was like an undiagnosed bipolar schizophrenic. When you heard those foot, she she always knew how to make it work, and we had a house in a pretty decent neighborhood. Mom was always, like, cleaning houses, or she had a store. She was always moving and shaking, and we'll talk about that more later because I've never talked about being an entrepreneur. It's weird. Me and my brother have talked about this. But
Huh?
when the footsteps were coming, I'll never forget this wood hallway, like wood floors in this hallway that we had, and you heard these footsteps coming. You just didn't know it was coming. It could be laughing, it could be
Yeah,
crying,
yeah.
it could be a slap, it could be anything. And it was like I it wasn't like I grew up in an abusive household by any means, but there was just a lot of like emotion. I was raised by a single mother. Like Harry was in and out all the time. She was trying to really make that like a father figure for my brother, but I always just was like trying to get out of there. It was so like chaotic. Like it wasn't like a hoarder house you see on A&E, but it was just like never clean. It was just like always
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
the dogs is shitting everywhere, or there's dishes piled up in the sink, or there's like I don't want to paint it like it was this crazy, crazy household, but at the same time, I would go to other kids' houses. I'm like, why is it so peaceful,
Whoa.
calm, like just like there wasn't this angst. But looking back on it, my mom was just doing the best she knew how to do with the help that she had. And so when I look at my getting out, getting in trouble, going on, it was more just like I knew I wanted to get away from that. I didn't know why. I had an aha moment when I was in like third grade, where I got put in a room full of adults, and I knew I was running the room at that age. I mean, I look at my son; he's 9 in third grade. I couldn't
Yeah.
imagine him having a realization like that. But it was like I knew I could kind of get my mom to do anything at a young age, like just kind of like I wouldn't call it gift of gab, but it was just like the trouble, the attention, all of it. It's something I think about a lot with 5 kids, and it was just like the atmosphere was so chaotic. I just wanted to get away from it. I think that's the best way to put
Yeah.
it.
No, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, growing up, everybody, you've got your family, and sometimes looking back, you're like, oh man, it's so fucked up, so fucked up, so fucked up. But you don't until you get older, you don't realize everybody's family life is some sort of fucked up, right? You're just
100%.
living your sort of fucked up, but it helps mold you in a way, and a lot of that getting out, that boredom, that control, that retrospect, that thoughtfulness that most people don't have at that age. Most people when they're in third grade, and that's what I want for my children is being in third grade, running around oblivious, live in your bubble, go have fun, go do this, go do that, so you don't have to realize what life is all about.
Mhm.
But that is a strength that some entrepreneurs and leaders have because they were gifted that at such a young age. I think my story is probably a little bit different, but I was really thoughtful. I've always been deep in my head and thinking, and because I traveled so much, mine was more learning how to read people and see people and
Like
talk to people
navigate,
and
like
all these
connecting with
different people.
people. Sure.
And at that early age, it was more manipulative on my part because I didn't know the good and bad with manipulating people. I mean, nowadays it's kind of fucked up to be able to manipulate people in real ways, but I figured that out at a young age. So, man, I hear that, I see that. So, when did it, or did it, growing up? Was it ever entrepreneur? Is it just this bored kid want to get out and want to have fun? Talk about the rest of growing up, getting a little bit older, teenage, stuff like that.
I relate a lot to the stories that I hear about people setting up a lemonade stand, selling toys, doing the but you don't when you're going through it, you don't know it. Like it just comes naturally. It's like you have this, at least what I've seen with other entrepreneurs is like you kind of until you reflect on it, you don't know what it is. That
Yeah.
go, 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 gotta get it, gotta figure it out, gotta do something. Where it's like that can get pointed in so many directions. I got tested in 7th and 8th grade for ADD like 3 times, and I'll talk to people that have very extreme ADD. They're like, "Oh, yeah, you have ADD," and I'm like, "It's not what the test said." I just like I look at me and my younger brother have talked about this. My younger brother, Nick Carroll, very, very successful, runs this company called Prep Hoops. Him and his business partner just like got it right he's 2.5 years younger than me. But we're like yin and yang sometimes. We act a lot the
Yeah.
same.
Yeah.
But like if you put us in a room, like we look alike, but you wouldn't very different sides of the thermometer. He's just a lot more cool and collected than I am.
There you
But
go.
we've talked about this growing up because he just had his 5th child, and he was like, we saw being entrepreneurial. Our mother was very entrepreneurial. Our father was very entrepreneurial. Dad wasn't super in the picture until later in life, but like it wasn't like now when you got it in front of you on Instagram and these kids are opening cards and selling sneakers and having hustles and doing like what our kids will see. Cause my range, I got all the way as old as 12, as young as 2. And like, we didn't see that as kids. It wasn't Gary Vee in your face telling you to go to garage sales and flip baseball cards or some shit. But our mother worked very hard and she would have different jobs, but she'd always be hustling, trying to like give us a better life. And our father is just a very like smooth as molasses sales guy. And like me and my brother, I think, became this blend of what we saw, but it wasn't like, you brought up Al like his parents. We try to teach our kids, we try to recognize this stuff. I sit my kids down and I talk to them about this stuff. The 2, 3 days a week sometimes that I work from home, especially when they're on break or it's over the summer, like they see this shit. They see me doing during the day, moving, shaking, operating, growing, and we're at different ages than my parents were. My mother was 40 when she had my brother. She was 37 when she had me. And my kids have seen a little bit more of the early phases. But I think about this a lot, or me and my younger brother have talked about it a lot, was like, did someone teach us this? What's the likelihood that 2 kids from a household are both gonna like grow up, become entrepreneurs? It didn't take my brother as many swings at the bat that it took me, but like to get a business to the level of where we both have it is just something very uncommon if you just look at data. Like,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
but clearly something happened. We go to dinner with my dad now, like once a week, twice a week. We're like, Dad, you get the credit. He's like, I wasn't fucking there. I don't know. I don't know what you guys figured out with this stuff. But it's like there was something, there was some in the water, there was some in the atmosphere that I think gave us that drive that as I get around more entrepreneurs on whatever level of as people define as success, just that common trait of like wanting to go get out and get after it.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. For me, I love business. I just love business. I love every aspect of it. Um, but it's funny you say that. One of your strengths, I think, is being able to control the chaos. Right? It's for some
Fascinating.
reason I get this vision of Dave having chaos around him, but you talk about your childhood growing up in this house that's a little chaotic, right? And so it's like growing up, you had to deal with the chaos, but you're still pretty level-headed and you're still mind on that right
At
mission
times,
and stuff
I
like
have
that.
my
At
moments.
times, yeah, you have your moments. Oh man. So you said you're like, he got there earlier success, but I don't think that's fair because I think you found success earlier, but you had like a misstep or 2, right? So
2 or 3.
you if you were put in the right business, in the right track, you probably would have got there faster, and I don't know if you wanna talk about those things or not.
Of course, always
I know
open.
Raymond got deep into his background, but, you
Ray, my
know
guy, Ray Little. Shout out my
yeah,
guy.
Ray Little got deep into his, that's for sure. Um, but yeah, talk about that. What was your first taste of success like?
So I got exposed at a very young age, being a cliche guy around like selling drugs was always fascinating to me. I got into I remember I was like 14 years old. This guy Chase, he sadly passed away a couple years ago. Um, I remember the first guy I convinced to front me a quarter pound of weed. I was this dude that was like they didn't have any money, but and like back then a quarter pound of weed was like 1,500 bucks, 1,400 bucks. Again, I'm 14, and it probably at that time really cost 800. But I'm the knucklehead young guy getting played by the older dudes that sell shit to all my friends. But like dude, the first time I remember holding 4 ounces of weed in my hand, I was like, "I'm in love with this. There's 4 of these ounces. I'm gonna break them down. I'm gonna go figure this out." I have my little still this day, I got my little notebook. I'm fucking running around. I just remember that feeling of like having something to do all day. Like I got a pile of this shit and I gotta sell it to somebody. And that just like it still lights me up. And I remember just falling in love with the lifestyle of the hustle and bustle and the move and the grind, and your phone is ringing, you gotta be somewhere, and something went wrong over here, and you gotta fix it, and this person did this thing, and we gotta deal with it, and, like, just all that stuff, I fucking love it.
You just stay busy. It's just fun, right? It's
Dude,
it's
all day.
accomplishing task after task after
Well,
task and getting
just
better and better
it's
and better.
playing
Yeah.
into when you look at, any level of self-awareness, just understanding your own personal, like, call it mental health. It's not all bad, but if you learn how to put that shit in a bottle and do something with it, and when I found from, like, 14 to 21, dude, I just immersed myself in that lifestyle, and I got connected with guys, or there were guys going out to Cali, and I'm 17, 18 at this time. Guys are bringing hundreds of thousands of dollars back. I'm sitting in hotel rooms just with the shit you see in movies at a very young age. And it was just normal to me. I remember we got pulled over one night, and I'm younger. I'm probably at this point 18, 19. It was a couple years before I got in some serious trouble. And we got pulled over, and I'm with a couple of my buddies. They're all like 22, 23, 25, and all of us have like anywhere between six to $10,000 on us in cash. And the cops pull us over, bad tail light, guy had big rims on his car or something. Cops pull us out, we're like, why the fuck do you all have so much money on you? We're like, why don't you, bro? The
Why
fuck are you
don't
doing?
you?
Late.
Yeah.
We're going out. It's Sunday night. We're about to go pop bottle, like whatever, just being assholes.
Yeah.
And I just remember like I was just an embodiment, like what I wanted to, and like success and the version of success I think evolves as we evolve in life, as we get
Yeah.
older, as we go through life experiences, we get in relationships, as we have children, like whatever it is. And at that point in my life, dude, I just wanted every day to be a rap video, and it was like the stuff we were
Yeah.
doing. The best way I can explain it without trying to sound like bragging or whatever is like it was a movie, and I lived into that lifestyle. Guys I was around, I turned like 18, 19, and guys start getting into like oxys and shit like that. And I'm doing pills, and we're drinking and doing coke and just like everything that comes along with it. And some people started doing heroin. And I always had this rule, like I was around all of it in the worst crack houses all the way up to the top, everywhere in between. And I just
Yeah.
always had this rule for myself. Like I was okay doing blow. That was like my rule. But like crack and heroin and meth, I just had this rule. I'm like, I'm never doing that. I see what it does to people. I'm drawing that line. I'm never gonna get into it. But I was doing like pills and shit. Somehow that was
Yeah.
like justified in my
Yeah, that's very Whitney Houston of you, right?
hey, trying to and right when it started to get bad, man, right when guys were starting to get into like snorting heroin, shooting heroin. Some guys are getting into
Yeah.
meth and stuff, and we're still making real money. I mean, we're touching
Oh, yeah.
hundreds of thousands of dollars a week, like running, whatever, running out of town, all that stuff. And a house that I was living in and managing got robbed for like 200 grand, and found out who it was. It was actually the wrong dudes. It was these dudes' friends. But I grabbed three of my knucklehead buddies, got two pistols, kicked the door into this house. I remember we kicked the door in and we run inside, and there's this living room, this old Victorian, like this, like a frat house down at the University of Minnesota. Kick the door in. These guys start grabbing, guys I'm with start grabbing like PlayStations and CDs and shit like that. I'm like, what the fuck are you guys doing? We're here to get my shit back. And I'm yelling, and the light flicks off upstairs. And I had this big 380. This other guy, Jesse, had a gun. And I see a light flick off. I look at these guys, and like you look back, and it feels like a lot more time went off. We're talking seconds as I tell this
Yeah,
story.
yeah,
I look
real
at these
quick.
guys, and they're like, "What do we do?" I just ran upstairs, and when I get upstairs, it's like stairway, landing, stairway, and then like one big room. So there's the stairs right here, and there's like doors, to bedrooms up there. And the stairway's here, and there's a door right here. And I turn, and there's a guy standing in the doorway. And looking back, like it played out differently in my head than the situation, but I put the gun on him. I screamed something around the facts like, get the fuck down, something. And looking back, he was like doing what I told him to. I thought he was coming at me, or maybe I wanted to think he was coming at me, and I hit him with the gun. It was bad, like broke his jaws. He falls back into the doorway. So now I walk into the doorway, and Al, for no reason, I was gonna fucking kill this dude. Like I was looking
Yeah.
at him on the ground. I was gonna pull the trigger. Thank God his friend was hiding with his back. So I walk in the doorway, but his friend is hiding right here with his back to the wall with a little buck knife. He starts fucking stabbing me. So I got hit here in my lung, right here in my back. I drop my gun. I turn. I'd try to grab the knife. I'm getting the knife away from the guy, and the other guy picks up the gun, cracks me with the gun, splits
Ooh.
my head open. I fall. We're squabbling in the room. They close and lock the door. The guys that I'm with come up, and these guys quickly like, we're calling the cops. 3 guys leave me there. So I'm in the room with these 2 guys. We're fighting. I end up getting stabbed a couple more times, and somehow these guys were more scared of me than I was scared of them. And what ends up happening is they get the gun and the knife, and I'm screaming at them, and I back them downstairs. I didn't know it, but my lung was collapsed. And when you get, for anyone that's been in a knife fight and made it out, you don't know you're getting stabbed. Like it feels
Yeah.
like you're just in around, probably been in, I don't know, 100 fist fight. And it just feels like you're in a fight. I get downstairs and I look down. And I remember pulling my shirt up, and it was like doing that throbbing with the dark blood. I was like, this
Yeah.
is really fucking bad. So these guys, the one guy that I hit with the gun, it was bad. Like face, hey, it was not good. He had to go to the hospital, and they were going to take this again. It felt like I was in there for an hour. It's probably fucking 20
The
seconds.
cops are already there. EMT,
They're not there yet.
everything.
They're not
Oh,
there
okay.
yet. The guy they were going to take that guy to the hospital. I told them they're taking me with. And in that moment, I'm like, I got to get the fuck out of here. So it's January 17th, 2007. On this night, it's fucking negative 10 degrees out. I'm in like a thermo and jeans and sneakers, and I walk outside, and I make it down the alley, and I run into these 2 homeless guys. I'm like, I look like a fucking murder scene. I'm like, man, I just got jumped in the alley. These guys stole my wallet. Da da da. Let me use your cell phone. We had a guy waiting down the block in another car. I call him. He's like, dude, I just left. The cops are coming. Get the fuck out of there. So I turn, and I see the cops coming from like 2 blocks away. It's fucking 1:30 in the morning. It's the middle of the night, dark out. I see the cop lights coming, and I try to like kind of hide myself, but I'm in a white thermo that looks like I bought it red. The
Yeah.
cops come screaming by, and they stop on the ice, and they skid, and I try to run, and I passed out. Woke up in the ambulance. I'm trying to get out of there. Passed out again. Woke up in the hospital. I'll never forget. So I was out for like the night or whatever, unconscious, woke up. Detective Barbara Moe, I saw her on First 48, was standing over me with a lineup with 6 pictures, and one of them's me circled with signatures next to it. She's like, David, you've been in some trouble before, but you hit the big time with this one, tough guy. They put me in county with 4 charges, 2 first-degree burglaries, first-degree aggravated robbery, second-degree assault. Hit the big time. And they bring me downstairs. I'm all stabbed up, fucked up, staples in my head, and they're like, look, dude, you're clearly not the mastermind behind any of this. When in fact, I was. I grabbed the guns. We went in here. My shit got done. But I turned 21 3 weeks ago. And she's like, tell us who was in the house with you, and we'll put you on a plan or whatever. I'm Mr. Tough Guy. Fuck you. Da 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 da. So I end up getting bailed out. They put me in treatment, go through the thing, but I still like my case is pending. I got to go to court. They come back with a deal. They say you can take 1 felony and take 8 years. You can take 4 felonies and take 4 years, or you can take or you can get a year and a day in the workhouse and just tell us who was with you, and we'll expunge your felonies when you get out, whatever. I said, fuck you, run the 4 years. So I ended up getting sent to St. Cloud to do intake. I went to Appleton for a little bit, which was like a medium. I ended up getting in this program. You had to be like under 25, have under 5 years, and have no like bad mandates, like bad cases or shit like that.
Yeah.
Got in this program. They sent me to Stillwater, which is like a max here in Minnesota, but it's like Shawshank, like 100 years old, 5 tiers with the like still has bars. It's not one of the new ones or whatever. And dude, I grew up in prison. I look at the most,
Yeah.
some of the most developmental years in a man's life from 21 to 25, right? You're in college or you're getting into your career, you're learning stuff. I'm around murderers and rapists and fucking just navigating my way in prison. And it was just, I learned a lot about myself. As I'm sure you have my boy Ray on here before. He talked a lot about this stuff. Dude, I'm not gonna say prison's not that bad. It sucks, but if you're not like a sucker, there are predators in there. There are people to take advantage of, and if you're not one of those people, and you navigate in life like you navigate in there, you can make the best out of the situation, and that's what I did. So I was I had a bunch of hustles. I was buying old man's pills, and I had a poker game running that I got approved by my buddies. My buddy's brother like ran the Latin Kings, and I knew him from the street, and it wasn't like a safety thing. It was just like there's this poker game
Yeah.
running. It was me, this dude Chill that was in there for 100 years that killed a bunch of people. One of the dudes that ran the Latin Kings, and this other dude that like ran D Hall that was like this guy that had been in there forever, and me that played this poker game.
Dave, yeah.
It was like a
You're
do not
certainly not the
disturb.
mastermind, Dave.
Yeah,
Give
it
up
was
the
just
mastermind.
dude, I learned a lot, and reflecting back from anyone that's been through a situation like that or has gone through a hard life event, it's like you don't really realize what you're going through. You're just doing it, and then you get out
Yeah.
and you have your experiences, and you go
Like,
back to
holy
life, and then
shit.
you get older and you start having more life experiences, and then you start like thinking about that stuff more and like what it did for you, what it did to you, what molded you, just like anything else in your life that you went through. And I think about it a lot more than I ever did previously, but in a way where I'm just like, as a parent, I remember my father came to visit me. He came up every weekend. He drove when I was in Appleton. That was like 4 hours away. Me and my dad got super, super tight when I was away. And it was like, he asked me one day, he's like, David, he's like, I know I wasn't around all the time. And it wasn't like he was like totally absent. Like it was like every other weekend or every Wednesday, but that was only like
Yeah.
half the time he came and got me, like that type of shit. And he asked me, he's like, David, what made you think, like for me as your father, for anything I taught you, anything that you were around when I was around, like whatever, what made you think that it was okay to like have someone do something to you and your natural reaction is to go get a gun and go hurt that person? I was like, Dad,
Yeah.
we were way past that by the time I made that decision. It was the choices that I made growing up that led me to thinking that that behavior was how I had to prove my dude. You couldn't come take my shit. I had to do something. Everyone was gonna take my shit all the time, and like I'd already been through that on different levels and done things similar to what I had got in trouble for.
Yeah.
But I remember telling my dad, for anyone that's like watched The Wire, the HBO show The Wire, in
Yeah.
season 4, when it's about the kids in school, I think it's like the 5th graders and the 6th graders, like naming the kid's the guy's son or whatever, when they're focused on that in that season. The guy that they hire to start the program where they're like studying kids, his name's Bunny Colvin. And this guy gets a grant and they go to get 18-year-olds and they put the 18-year-old in the room with this like school science guy and Bunny with the grant. And the guy ends up trying to stab the guy with a pen. They're like, yeah, 18's a little too old. These kids are kind of gone by now. And they determine that it's like in 5th grade, 6th grade is when you can take kids from adverse situations or whatever they're going through and kind of like guide them. If it goes after that, the show kind of told the story around like it's a little too
Yeah.
late the further it gets.
A little too late.
The example I made with my dad was like, it was just a little too gone by that point. And what I think about with the decisions I made that led up to that, with the lifestyle that I was living that was expedited, dramatically in just a short amount of years from 17 to 21 or whatever it was like, how can I be there as a father for my children to have them not get put in a spot where it would go down that path? Dude, I went to 9 high schools after I started getting in trouble, and I would always me and my brother were talking about this the other night, like I would always gravitate towards the bad crowds because that was what I was involved in. That was what interested me. That's what came naturally. So it's just like this domino effect. But it was like, I just made that decision. I'll go back to when I got that first 4 ounces of weed, was like, I didn't know exactly what came along with this. I'll relate it a little bit to business. When I started dope just 4 or 5 years, I didn't know exactly
Yeah.
what I was doing or where this would went or where I would get into, but I knew I was committing everything inside of me, every ounce of my blood, every breath that I took was going to go into like figuring this thing out and providing value and helping business owners and doing whatever. And it was not like, I don't love the analogy of like, oh, drug dealers are good business owners, but I think that entrepreneurs that come from a place of being put in a position to figure it out and go through adversity and have controlled chaos, the byproduct can be this obsessive nature about just like figuring shit out and getting shit done. And I think through my journey, I think I embody that mentality.
Yeah. So many great lessons in that. So many great lessons in all that. Every single piece of it. And Ray and I talked about that, where it's like, it seems like the very few people, like, I don't recommend this path, but the few people that have gone through the path that you have, right? Felony, dealing drugs, doing this, get thrown in prison, have some aha moment, some life realization that they shouldn't be doing this anymore, but channel everything they learned in that business and put forth that into another business. That's a way to success. It's like, if you get through that bullshit, you're there's got to be some stats around how likely you are to have a business and succeed. But I don't want to glorify it or anything and say, hey kids, go start stealing drugs, because if you make it out of that life, you're going to be successful in the next one, because that's not the way either. But I
Yeah.
think you set a lot of things into it, and there's a lot of things about who you are. um Take social settings and things, and
That's where I was
discount
going.
high school a little bit, because you
Yep.
did bounce around and stuff, but you go into this social setting that is that drug empire, right? And then you get thrown into prison, and you quickly go into that social setting, which is a completely different one. And it's funny hearing your stories versus, I've got a lot of friends that in and out of prison, and they all say similar things, that like, man, if there was only women in there, I think I'd love it. I think
Dude, back
if I
then,
didn't
when you
women,
see
I'd
shit about
love
back in like the 90s and the 2000s,
it.
what they were
Yeah.
doing, like this shit wasn't that bad. I mean, don't get me wrong, prison fucking sucks.
Prison fucking sucks, right? Yeah.
I think something, Al, that gets when you see the stories of the people that, I just started talking about prison more openly somewhat recently in the past year. It was never something I would hide. I just always felt imposter syndrome for the people that would like get DWIs and be like, I was in prison. I was like, dude, you're in a minimum for a year. And I remember
Yeah, yeah.
but it was fucked up of me. Everyone has their story. It doesn't matter if you
I'm
went through
judging
any
them
of
because
those
you went
situation or hit
6
silver
months in
spoon or
county.
that still sucks and you still learn from that. I would always kind of be like a bully internally with that shit, just like, you didn't do what I did. Like, but that's
Yeah.
not it, man. I think in those stories, I think a lot of the times the theme can be like, oh, you were a drug dealer, or you did this, and you can take it there because there's levels to all that. I'm not saying I was just like the man, dude. I was the guy that was good convincing the Asian Bloods to front me
Yeah.
$300,000
People
of
just like you, Dave.
it
It's the
was
same shit, right? It's the same shit. People just like
exactly.
Dave. People like Dave. People like to sell to Dave. People like to buy from Dave, no matter what that is they're buying or selling. And then when you go into prison, it's the same thing, right? And what I've learned, no matter how tough or hard or criminal a person is, people are still people. And if
Every
you're
day.
if you're well liked, if you're sociable, and you're not a fucking douchebag, then you're not going to get killed in prison unless you did something really wrong.
Well,
But that's neither here nor there.
it's one of the things that I pride myself on is just being authentic. Like you're gonna
Yeah.
get this version of me if you're at my house with my kids, if we go to church with my stepmom, if it's me in a sales meeting, if it's me at a trade show, whether it was 3, 4 years ago, we were staying up till 4, or as the past couple years, we're waking up at 4 to go for a run. Like I just pride myself on being every bit of me. And I think
Yeah.
where I tell that story about the drug dealers and the entrepreneurs, I take it more to the learning and developing the management muscles when you don't even know that's what you're doing because I've always
Yeah.
prided myself. I think I'm a natural leader of people. And I think that I believe in myself and what I'm doing and just like versions of success that's changed. Why did I always believe on myself or depend on myself? Well, because of what I put myself through or what I had been through and because if it was on me versus on someone else, if I took responsibility, if I was going to head something up, it's either like I was responsible for it enough if it went right, and I don't really need the credit or the pat on the back. I'm harder on myself than anyone could ever be on me, and I know the expectations I have of myself. And so, like, I don't really need a lot of praise. But if something goes wrong, at least I can blame myself and not have to put it on someone else with this feeling I always had like I could do it better. It's why I never really did well with like partnerships or like relationships for that matter. I was never taught growing up value of relationships. My mom always had like one best friend, and then she would run them over, and then it was someone else. It was always this kind of like other like pushover person that would like deal with. Dude, my mom was very magnetic, but it was also like
Yeah.
fucking crazy. And mom, I love you, but like
Yeah.
we're fucking nuts. We have the gene, and it was like looking back. Me and my brother have talked about this a lot. There was just not a lot of value in our upbringing put on relationships. And because I always wanted that through the lifestyle, and like I was never in a gang, but I was around a lot of that stuff, and I was the guy that always had like, dude, like chameleon. Like I could be in the suburbs at the girl's mansion that was out of town at that party, all the way to like in the fucking projects with my boys and everywhere in between. And I developed those muscles of being able to navigate in different situations. Take it back to the stuff in high school, take it to the stuff in prison. But I think what gets downplayed in the stories about drug dealers being any level of success as business owners is a good drug dealer is the same as the guy that worked in the mailroom that worked his way up to management. Like that was me. I was selling 20 bags and made it up to having the big stuff and being like more in the wholesale. And what comes with that is just the navigating of people, the putting roles together, the having like, dude, when I go get fronted $100,000 worth of anything, I had 4 or 5 guys that I would go give that to. And in anyone that came up in this stuff, it's not always cash transactions. You're getting fronted something, you're fronting it out, but then you got to make sure everyone's paying for it. And sometimes you have to step in to make sure that that always happens. And I think that that developed along with prison the management style of being able to lead in a way with some of my natural tendencies. I got really big last year and going into this year as we were scaling dope to 100 employees of like the disc analysis, the Clifton strength test, the Myers-Briggs stuff. And when you understand, when you said controlled chaos earlier in the conversation, one of my tendencies is controlled chaos. I can manage controlled chaos
Yeah.
very well. It comes out in testing, and it's like, when you look at growing businesses, it's about the delegation of tasks. It's about managing people. I mean, bro, you were up here, what, 2, 3 weeks ago, and I don't always
Yeah.
do a good enough job of putting it on the internet, what we're actually doing in this business. But I remember the look on your face when you walked in, you're like, holy shit, dude, you guys are cooking in here because I think as I've grown as a leader and I've grown as a manager, the glass ceilings you have to break, they call them glass ceilings, you can't see the fucking things. It's like you have to commit to a level of personal growth to get out of your own ways and to break the patterns of what I was talking about at my presentation at RoofCon, the pause method. It's like
Yeah.
you have to be self-aware enough to break your regular patterns. What's my regular pattern? I'm a fucking hothead. I'm reactive. I only see the problems in an effort to fix it. I helicopter in, and like over the past 3 years of cutting out some of my bad habits of drinking and the partying, and like, because if I do something, I kind of go hard. And for anyone that's been
Yeah.
around me in the past 5, 6 years, back in those days, we used to go pretty hard. And I think that when I gave up being committed to being that version of myself, and I took the responsibility on of the personal growth, we wouldn't be where we're at today in business. I couldn't be the manager that I grew up learning to be. I couldn't be the leader that I grew up learning to be until I started hitting some of those glass ceilings and breaking through them. And all that was interrupting my natural patterns and having people that I can delegate to where everyone doesn't necessarily get exposed to my level of operating because it's not really rational or realistic all the time. But it's being able, one of my mantras for last year that I'll carry with me my whole life is like, to have control is to give up all control. And it doesn't mean like, oh, I'm going to let it all happen. It's that like, you're
Yeah. Jesus
that
take the wheel.
oh,
Yeah.
let it go, drive down the hill, Tesla, whatever. It's like you got to put your all into something, but then commit to the fact that you can delegate that thing out and commit to like, I'm going to put my all into this, and then I'm going to let control go because I did everything that I can to have this whatever situation go in a way that I set it up to go. And I think that as I look back on just like the evolution of where I've gone as a manager, as a leader, as a husband, as a father, dude, I still have my moments. I'm still human. but
Yeah.
I work a lot more on recognizing that what got me here won't get me there, and that's my responsibility because I'm not trying to stop moving anytime soon, but I just have to move a little bit differently than I used to get things done.
Yeah, no, relationships and business are also universal, right?
Yeah.
They're so in line, and a good entrepreneur doesn't just grow their business; they grow with their business. That business
Real shit.
takes you and changes you and helps you grow. But there's a
Absolutely.
lot to be said about those stages and those phases. Like you hear crawl, walk, run, you hear stuff like that. I always just say phases. It's just different phases
Like chapters.
of your
If life
business,
is a
chapters,
book, it's
right?
the chapters. Some chapters are short, could be a couple
But
months.
chapter you today, if you went back to chapter 1, I don't think you'd do as well, right? You had to be that rough, that grind in the early stages, whereas now you have to grow and you have to manage people through this different type of growth. So it's really cool to watch that and watch you grow through that.
Appreciate it, man.
You said something really funny is I walked in because I did just do the dope tour, right? Where I went and checked out the dope office at Dope. And and it's weird to me, right? Coming from the home service industry, it's so strange because even growing up with my dad and my uncles having like over $100 million company, right?
Yeah.
One of the largest companies that everybody looked up to in roofing. Yet I remember being my first time as a sales manager, and the biggest part of my job was to recruit people. I was embarrassed to recruit people to our business
Well, you knew what was
because
going on behind the
it was
scenes, though, and
so
what the
unsophisticated. No, it wasn't just behind the scenes, it was you walk into the offices and it's like, "Dude, this is kinda sketchy. It's not polished, it's not put together, like, it's not
Sure,
professional." I walk
sure.
into the dope marketing office, it's professional, right? People are sitting in their cubicles, they're doing their job, everybody's got their tasks, it's this chaos, but everybody's doing what they're supposed to do, and it works and it flows, where you walk into a typical roofing office, and I think all home services are pretty much the same, to where it doesn't have that clean, crisp professionalism. It almost goes back to like you explained your house versus other people's house. Like it worked, but it was a little dirty. You know what I mean? Like it
I
wasn't clean and
think of
cut.
that. My wife's got it hanging in our house, that the iceberg thing.
Yeah.
Al, I'm an overnight success. It just took 15 years.
It's
Like,
just
it I dude, you were at our cleaning company. So I've owned a power washing company for 15 years. We're getting into some new services this year. Al's helping us out with some stuff, kind of like
Yep, yep.
guiding it, and like it I see what goes on there, and I haven't set foot in that office. Dude, you've been there more often in the past, I
Yep.
7 years, because I removed myself from that business for another time and another story. But like, what I'm so proud of at Dope is we just took everything we learned to get it started and going. But then as it's developed, like, it couldn't have gone where it's going if we wouldn't have taken the lessons we learned along the way of some of the things that you're talking about, of just like how our businesses ran. And your my job as the leader, as the founder thing, it just becomes different. There's different things required of me. And so I relate a lot to the controlled chaos, because a lot of home service business owners, and I'm one, like I grew up in this
Yeah.
stuff too. It's not what we knew. We're technicians, we're salespeople, we're marketers, like the office, the management, the structure, the processes. I don't think that comes naturally to a lot of entrepreneurs, but like, you get to a point in business, depending on the industry you're in, the services you offer, whether it's a revenue thing, where it's the people required to grow to the next level, where it's the people you got to bring in to organize stuff that you're just not as good at. But it goes back to that, like, giving up control to have real control. No one's saying you can't run. Let's go to roofing for a minute. I know that's a lot of the audience. A $10 million, a $50 million, $100 million company. Like, I know guys that grew up in the same fucking background that I did. Look at Ray and Todd, and what they
Yeah.
did was like, these guys are just grinders and they went and got it. Like,
Yeah.
but when you start bringing the people in to put the corners to the puzzle, that's where it's like these things get to the next level. And whether that's bringing other people in or making the decision that you're going to delegate the things in your business that you're kind of holding on to give them to someone else, not because it's going to go perfect when they do it, but so you can really focus on your strengths and continuing to develop the things that like can propel the business without you being distracted of some of the monotonous things in the day to day that you just got to admit to
No,
yourself,
yeah.
I'm not that good at this shit.
100%. I mean, that's why I'm out of roofing, because I never saw anybody do that. And so here I am running an
There's a
eight-figure
couple of them.
business, and but back in, 2016, 2012, like there was nobody that I knew of, nobody that I saw, and the world was a lot smaller. Social
Sure,
media isn't like it is today,
sure.
and we didn't go to events. So I'm sitting here watching people, my mentors, running these nine-figure companies back then, and their life was awful. The quality of life was awful, truly was. And then when I'm running my eight-figure business, it's like, well, what's the next step, right? I add a zero and a couple zeros to my paycheck, but my life is still awful. Fuck that. I want out, right? But have been able to transition into that, and so we did skip way ahead in your business, but I think it's important because it's all about you, and your business is a lot about you. But when you got out of prison, what was your next step into business? And there's a lot that I know, but there's gaps that I don't know, because like, how the
Dude, I
hell
went
did
back.
you become an expert into marketing? I know you've been big in networking, but it's like I know you lion share, and I know the landscaping or all the stuff that you do with that.
Yeah.
But was that from just going to masterminds and stuff? Like, so talk through your head after you got out of prison. What was that
I
next
went
step?
back to the same shit for a year and a half. Like I got out, was right back on the grind, and
Yeah.
met Barin pretty close. My wife, met her almost right away when I got out. Was still fucking around. Ended up catching a case. That's a whole nother story. But I got in trouble again after I got out,
Ah,
and decided the only job I had ever had in my life was a window cleaning company at the halfway house. Like I had gotten a job at Arby's, I had gotten a job at a gas station to get a paycheck so I could get an apartment when I turned 18. But like, um, I I went back to the same shit and then took another hard financial loss, got in some more trouble, and was just like, what I say in the sober world, like sick and tired of being sick and tired. It was just like this is
yeah,
done.
yeah.
And
What alcoholics refer to as an epiphany, right?
yeah, it's just like I'm gonna keep going and doing this, and this is what life is gonna be, or I'm gonna make a decision. So we opened this window cleaning company, and I just went all in, dude. I had no clue what I was doing, but I started going to the masterminds and the networking meetings and the stuff like that in that industry. And then very quickly, I was doing some stuff. I used to take, remember Voxer, the Nextel Chirp,
Yeah, I
Voxer, the
loved it.
walkie-talkie
Loved
app.
it, dude.
I used to throw on a safety vest and a hat, walk into a strip mall, and we're trying to sell commercial work like power washing and shit. And I'd look at a strip mall, throw my hat and my safety vest on, and I'd be like, all right, there's a strip mall, there's a Subway, a dog food store, AT&T store, and something else. I go to the dog food store because I knew it's like a younger employee in there. Throw my safety vest on, work myself up, get Voxer, set off Voxer right as I'm walking through the door and be like, Bill, hold on one sec, ma'am. I need to find we need water access to the building. I need to know who the property manager is. And everyone's in the store. It's like, what the fuck is going on? Why is this guy so weird? And I get the property manager's information, and I put together a proposal for the strip mall for like doing the dumpster pad, popping the gum off, doing the power washing. And I just fire these things out. And I started this guy, Thad, gave me my first opportunity to speak ever. I tried to talk myself out of it 3 times before it happened. But I gave my first presentation, like, it'd be like, 14 years ago now or something, at this show about how to sell commercial work. What the fuck did I know about selling commercial work? I'm watching guys on the board talk about this,
Yeah.
do my version of it. And I'm selling the jobs during the day. We're going to do the overnight work at night. I remember we closed these like 8 gas stations for snow plowing, and I bought like this snowplow truck. I still was kind of like selling shit on the side, like fund this thing. And I bought this snowplow truck from this plow truck guy for like $7,000. And I'm like, this is so productive. I just made $10,000 and I'm gonna buy this plow truck and we're like doing it legit. And the fucking thing broke the first night. I had these 8 gas stations. It snowed 12 inches. And me and Barin and these 3 fucking crackhead dudes I had working for me.
So she said, go grab a bunch of crackheads.
We had to go shovel the fucking 12 inches of snow out of these 8 gas stations. We're out for 48 hours, not
But
sleeping.
you did it.
Did it.
Did it.
We didn't
Most
know
people
any
would have
different.
thrown their shit down and called it.
I didn't have
and
any
like,
calluses, bro. I had soft money counting hands. Like I didn't know shit about cleaning gutters and doing all this shit, but I just figured it out. And I was like telling the story of getting in trouble, going out, being an entrepreneur. Like YouTube and Facebook are just getting hot at this time. And so I'm getting on. I'm sure, dude, if you look me up, there's still like videos of me talking about power washing from 14 years ago on YouTube somewhere. And like,
Love it.
I started getting into that stuff, and then I just hit the ground running. Like the other stuff, I just was into this company, going into it. I'm into that for like 3 years. And I'm like, I wasn't put on earth to run a window cleaning company. Like, we're trying to get to 1 million in revenue. That was taking too long. I'm trying to get off the truck, doing everything. And just like, I had an idea to come out with a software, and I couldn't spell fucking software. And we were just having my first daughter, Adea. This is like 12 years. She just turned 12. I get this guy wanted 30 grand. I come up with this piece of software. I couldn't spell 30 grand. I'm doing shit legit now. I fucking basically like sold one of my kidneys to pay this guy. And I came out with this software called Proposal, closethejob.com. I think the domain is still active. I come out with this software, and it's the equivalent of like DocuSign or PandaDoc. Like, you can upload your pictures, the unsolicited bidding that I was doing. You could upload your pictures, have your services, put your pricing in, merge your insurance and your W-9, all this stuff, and it would create a pretty bid. I had no clue what I was doing. But we start getting booths at these trade shows, and I'm speaking, and within 90 days, I sell this software $30 a month to 400 people. I'm like, let's go. This is way fucking easier than running a home service company. This recurring revenue. We're making dough. I bootstrapped this whole thing. Fast forward a couple years, we're doing good with it. And I'm still running the cleaning company, leveraging that, coming out with a tool. It's like, never will I say I was the first one to do it, but you see people doing this now. Like our boy Jake at RoofLink that just sold it to Sales Rabbit for tens of millions of dollars. Like, same thing. I had a company, I built a software, but that wasn't as common back then. And so
No, not
we
at all.
come out with this, and I'm still some young hothead, hotshot, talking shit to all the old guys, like just fucking douchebag. And I end up trying to turn it into a CRM. That went wrong. I get in a lawsuit with this company in Canada, this staffing company for developers. They don't let people like me into Canada. So we get in this lawsuit. I can't go up there. I'm learning this shit. And I failed turning it into a CRM, but I got exposed to through that process of like, I would get trade show booths, and I would educate and do speaking on like getting lists of commercial people, getting on lists of vendors, getting on any data contact lists, soliciting these people with cold email or stopping in and dropping off a candy jar with your logo etched into it and filling it up once a month. Just all this shit that's been going on in sales forever. And I was a proponent of teaching these things, but I got into the world of data, of buying data, of brokering lists. So for anyone watching this still, it's like bought a list before. I got into that business because we would sell people lists and then show them how to use our software to create the proposals. And I found my love and my passion. This was right around the time my boy Jeremy Jennings, one of my mentors, one of my best friends in life, is like, he brought me into the world. There's no school for selling data. You got to get in these little cliques and these circles and stuff. And these guys take me under their wing, and they show me the world of like selling data. And I met this guy, Dennis Yu, who's still online. Dennis is like a big name. If anyone knows Tommy Mello,
Yeah, Dennis.
Stuff still.
Dennis really well, yeah.
Yeah, dude. So Dennis, I got connected with Dennis, and this is right around the time where Facebook was taking away a lot of targeting, like data privacy laws were coming out and getting more.
So are you getting connected with them because of masterminds and networking?
Bro, I'm going
and
to all the
stuff,
trade
right?
shows, and I'm like, I'm me with like,
You're you. Like back in prison, making
bro,
friends
the
with the
same
biggest, toughest
shit.
people,
And I'm like,
everything else.
yelling and screaming and the tattoos and the watch it and the stuff. And I'm just like, I'm out there. People are like, who the fuck are you? How do you know this stuff? And I'm just like, well, I fucking learned it. And just into the grind.
Prison.
Getting in the databases, going through the things. Like, I just got obsessive of learning this world of like, where are lists created? How do you get a list of homeowners? How do you get a list of commercial? What's the source of it? How valid is it? How is it updated? How is it used? And I'm becoming a student of this shit. And I meet Dennis at this trade show, Traffic and Conversion Summit. We're online talking. I meet Dennis in person. He gets up in front of like, it's like fucking 10,000 people and 5,000 people. Something, huge room, Dennis main stage. And he goes, I'm going to tell you guys a secret. That guy standing right there in the third row in the blue hoodie, Dave Carroll, he's the best audience targeter you've never heard of. And after the fucking presentation, I have as many people around me trying to get my info as Dennis, because what me and Dennis had figured out was like, Facebook was taking away all this targeting, and Dennis would do these stages and get clients like Nike and TiVo and Ashley Furniture and UPAC. These clients I ended up through Dennis consulting with, because Facebook was taking away like targeting homeowners, targeting by income, targeting by credit score. But I figured out how to take these databases that we were brokering, add phones and emails to them, upload them into Facebook, and get like a 90% match rate when you could, like, they took away the targeting. You couldn't hit these people anymore. And I figured out how to do it. And me and Dennis went on a run with this shit. He'd have me speak at his masterminds and his stuff. It's how I met my brother, Justin Martin, that still we work closely to this day. Justin was sold one of the biggest, my boy in Denver that you've met, Justin.
Yep.
Justin had one of the biggest Remax's offices in Denver, doing the heyday in Denver. We're moving, we're shaking, we're making dough. But I was just like, I didn't have anything. I didn't have like a product. I could sell data. I could make 6-7 figures a year. If you gave me a phone and the internet, I could sell lists all day to people, show them how to use them, help them run the marketing. So like became a student of data, but I understood people. I understood human psychology. I understood if you got your message in front of the right person and you hit them enough times and you knew how to track it, Facebook was getting big, YouTube was getting big. But what I saw was every 10 lists I would sell, 2 were to a business owner, 4 were to a telemarketing company, and 4 were to a direct mail company. But my job was the same. I had to do the list curation, tell them how to use it, and then I was consulting and getting paid to help set up the campaigns. I was like, yeah, I already own a business. Selling to business owners can be tough. I don't want to be in telemarketing. That's like getting restrictive and calling people and doing that shit. But this direct mail thing, I was like, these people have no clue what they're doing. The direct mail space, you guys have heard me say it before, it's like 70-year-old fat dudes who suck at golf whose kids don't want to work for them. And every direct mail company I would work with, they have some fucking dinosaur data person that has no clue what they're doing. That's like bought from one vendor for their whole career. They didn't know how to set up the campaigns. They didn't understand the creative. They didn't understand design. They didn't understand tracking. And so I was making good money consulting for all these direct mail companies, but setting up a direct mail campaign seemed really fucking hard. Like, you had to get this.
And there's a lot of logistics in direct mail.
Dude,
A
I mean,
lot of logistics.
A lot. Look what we're doing at Dope. There's a lot of people that are doing a lot of stuff. And so what I saw was an opportunity of like, all right, there's all these pieces to creating a direct mail campaign. One, you got to get the list, and no one knows how to do that. You're sending out 20,000, 50,000 pieces in a shot, hoping it works, getting it in, you're getting enough result to justify it, but you don't know what you're doing. So you got to get a list. Then you got to have design. Like, you got to have a captivating design. You get your mail. It's like everyone's attention on every piece of mail. Then it's like you got to have an offer. You got to have a strategy. You got to tie it together with other marketing. And it was a fucking job. A direct mail campaign would take, at the low end, 2 weeks. At the high end, like 8+ weeks just to set up and execute the campaign. You're getting the list. You're getting the design. You're getting the strategy. You're setting up the tracking. You're dealing with the printing. You're dealing with the post office. You got to track the delivery. You got to see what worked. None of it's set up right. It's like a fucking nightmare. And so I had like an aha moment 6-7 years ago. I was like, dude, I'm going to make this direct mail shit easier. It's too hard. And I had a vision to build a piece of software where you could just upload a list, upload a design, click a button, and I'd broker the workout. That was my vision for Dope. So I get with this company, these developers, and I'm like, I'm the dude like with developing, like I'm not an engineer. I can't write software, but I've taken Spanish 4 times, or Spanish 2 4 times. And I can sit in a room of people speaking Spanish, not speak it totally fluently, but like not completely getting taken advantage of. So I'm like that with engineers. So I was like, I got to find someone that can build a tool that can just do these basic things, but I was never going to own a print shop. And then I saw, so we build the tool, we start selling it to some people and whatever. And like, it makes sense. But the work I'm sending out to these fucking dinosaurs is like taking 2 weeks to get it out. Or they're saying I got to have these minimums, or I got to just, these things where I'm like, you're making this way harder than it needs to be because of your bad processes. And I understood systems and processes enough in business. I was talking to my boy that we sold a lot of data to. He's a 3rd-generation printer, my boy Al Fechner down in St. Louis. And he was like, Dave, fucking buy the printers and do this yourself. Like, you can figure this out. What we're doing isn't that hard. And so I bought these printers. I rented the spot next door to Lion Share, where you were at over in Little Canada. That I don't know if they took you next door where the Christmas lights are.
No, I didn't see that one.
The electric's still hanging in there from when we had the printers in there. The whole place was as big as a semi truck. You could like pull a semi truck in there and be like wall to wall with the truck.
That's all you
I buy the printers. They sit in there for a couple months. I don't even know how to turn them on. These the guys that sold them to us are like, this sucker, I bought these things. I don't know what he's doing. And then the work keeps going wrong that we're brokering out. So I said, fuck it. I learned how to turn these things on and run them and get them. And I remember I bought a yard sign printer because I'm like, we got to supplement the revenue here. We're not selling out these subscriptions. I got a couple $100,000 into this already. We got this lease for these printers. That's not getting paid. I'm putting a bunch of dough into this. Like, what the fuck are we doing? I remember I'm on the phone with my boy Brennan, and I was like, dude, I'm buying a yard sign printer to sell yard signs to people for my software. He's like, what the fuck are you talking about, dude? That has nothing to do with this. I'm like, no, you don't see it. everyone that needs our software is going to buy yard signs and they're going to
It
be a
relates.
customer because it's 10 times easier to get someone to swipe their credit card a second time than a first time. So I'm waking up at 4 in the morning with the Ukrainians, getting the software built. And I'm trying to run the customer service and the sales during the day. And I got a headset on, chain smoking Marb lights, running this yard sign. First yard sign printer is a $100,000 printer. I got it for 35 grand. It was like 4 years old. It took 4.5 hours to print 100 yard signs that I was selling for like 500 bucks. So I got the headset on. I'm breathing these yard sign and Marb light fumes, running the printer, managing the customer service on the software. Barin's running Lion Share, also doing customer service for Dope. And we got this other office that we couldn't afford in Eagan. It was the one we got. I don't forgot if you came up before we moved to the new one because we've been in that new
No, I
office
hadn't seen the
for
second one
2 years
either.
now.
No,
The
or
one
the
we had for like the 2 years before that. We move in and it was 2,700 square feet and 700 of it was warehouse. And we moved that yard sign printer back there. To give you a reference, the printers we have now, the ones that you saw, they're like robots
yeah,
and
pretty
shit.
big.
Those can do 200 to 300 signs in an hour. And I was doing 100 signs in 4.5 hours to give you the reference of the time that went into to
Okay.
generate revenue. Margins are still the same. Or I should say we're selling signs for a little bit less now, but it's like the same shit. And it was just like Lion Share all over again. It was like I was taking the things that I knew about marketing, about sales, about data. I had hit a glass ceiling where I'm like, yeah, dude, I could make 500 grand to $1 million a year just selling data and doing this, but I wanted more. I wanted to have a product. I wanted to have a business we were selling, not just like this transactional selling a list and doing consulting stuff. And I just looked at the way something was working with the print industry, how it tied to software, how it tied to design, how it tied to the strategy. And I just had a different vision for how it worked. And I don't like to use the, Uber, taxi cab, Netflix, Blockbuster analogy, but the print industry, traditional marketing in general, was just there wasn't a lot of innovation. There weren't a lot of people solving problems with technology and automation. And I just had a vision that that could go differently. When I started Dope, I didn't know we'd be on the path to a $100 million valuation, getting 475 on the Inc. 5000, our third year in business, like hiring 100 employees, doing all these things. I didn't have that. Like, I wasn't like, these are my goals. But I was just like, I like this problem because it's big enough to solve. Blue ocean. There weren't a lot of people. It wasn't like I'm starting a Facebook ad agency. There was one of those in between this where I kind of cut my teeth on some of that stuff. But like, I saw that I could make an impact on people's businesses. Because to me, that's what success is. If you can take a dollar from someone and help them grow what they're doing and it's worth it for them to pay you every month, like that's success to me. You can help people in their mission of what they're doing. You're not going to be their top priority. You're not going to be the only thing that's helping them. But if you can contribute to someone else's success, like that's real success.
Yeah.
And
There you go.
when I look at my vision for Dope and where it started and where it's gone, dude, we had 30 employees less than 18 months ago. We have 100 employees right
Yeah.
now. Because when things start working and you have the systems and processes in place, dude, I didn't go to Harvard. I don't have an MBA. I don't even have I took out 3 student loans to flip money with. Like, and I I look at my path or my journey. You said it earlier in the call, Al. It's like I don't wish this on my kids. I don't think anyone needs to go down the path that I went down to get to where I'm going. But I think everyone's stories, their adversities, their grit, the things they go through, I think it's all relative. It's what you take from it. And for me, that mentality we were talking about at the beginning of the call is like, dude, I'm just fucking tenacious. Like
Yeah.
I'm a fucking savage. When I put my mind to something, it's gonna be pretty hard to convince me that when I have something figured out that I want to solve, that I'm not gonna put my all into that. And like, I think that kind of my journey, dude, I turned 40 at the end of this year. And I think that I have some of the fullest years of my life ahead of me. But I think it all comes down to like being very self-aware, being very authentic, and just being a man of my word. I do what I say I'm going to do. I'm not going to collect a check until the work is done. And I think that I bring that mentality into anything that I do. But I think if there's anything that I could teach people on their journey or on their path or where they're trying to get in life, it's just like, dude, if you just sign a contract with yourself and just commit to something that you're going to be the version of yourself that you commit to, and you're just going to do what you say you're going to do, I am a living testament that you can make any right or wrong decision, but just put that work in and that anything's possible. Where I'll kind of land this plane out is like the mentality that I wake up with every day is like, I'm not perfect, but I put that work in every
Yeah. Yeah.
day.
Um, any day, even when your snowplow breaks and it's the middle of the night and everybody else would just quit. You get out there and put the work in. I love it. You know,
Yeah.
I like to pull lessons out of this shit, right? Because this whole thing, like, what are we doing this for? Why are we talking to each other for an hour? We're doing it, like you said, to help people. Like that's what it's about for me. That's what this is about. If one person watches this and takes some lessons, you can read a lot about people's success, anybody's success. You could watch podcasts, YouTube, this and that, people telling their story. Your story is captivating as it is, it's hard to pull lessons out of it. It's like, oh wow, right. So what I'm trying to do is deduct a couple things, right? So
Yeah.
you can't take away the Daveness out of your success. And I think your Daveness is your ability to people like you, they wanna buy from you, they wanna sell from you. There's a reason why you can create a software and go sell it to 400 people overnight. Uh, I you're born with that. You know, that you can't take that away. Maybe that's the piece that the mom, and the father, the passion, the be able to sell anything, the grittiness. That piece, okay, you can't duplicate that, y'all. But what did you have? You found something that you were great at. In whether it's data or anything else, you found something that you're great at. You tried to monetize it a normal way and you realized it was transactional. And it's like, I like monetizing this. So how did you really start to monetize it? You found who bought it from you. And it's like, okay, I've got this tool. So everybody's that's buying it from me, that's how they use it. Let's look at the different options. And you found the option that you wanted to go into. And I don't know if you went into enough is how much opportunity was in that. We live in this age, this people call it the silver gold mine, the silver wave, whatever it is, and not buying silver, but actually these old people that are in these dinosaur industries, these like print, and they're struggling, right? They just don't have it down. How many times have you walked into any business and you're like, these guys fucking suck, but I like what they're doing. It's pretty smart. I'm buying from them. That's what you did. You're like, these guys fucking suck, but I like what they're doing. They're buying from me, and I could do that better. And then you turn around and you did it, right? And then even the more you're in there, the more that you're just making this business better, and you're doing it smarter, and you're making a ton of money. So it's like find that way to monetize what you're great at, and grow that and scale that, but don't stop. Stay away from the transactions. I think everybody, anytime you hit that glass ceiling, it's being obsessed with getting out of being transactional and trading your time for money, or this product that takes your time for money, and in creating an innovation that pulls time out of it. And I believe that's what you've done so well with Dope, because you monetize data. You know, what you did is you took a data company and you made that data company great, and you turned it into and monetized it. That's what I love about it. That's what I love about your story. And you're going to continue to revolutionize that and do more and more and more. You know,
I want to put something into the universe for anyone watching this. If it's April 2nd, got some heat coming for you this week. You talk about innovation and some of the things. And I think, Al, that's what propels me is I think it's important as business owners, as we grow and scale, understanding what we're content with. Because there's an amount of money where you win the game. Like
yeah.
you can go sell your company, your life isn't going to be any different. I've had some people I talk to. What are the numbers? Is it 15 million is one step, and then 75 million is another step? 20 million is a whatever it is. But there's a point where you financially win the game. And then there's another point where it's like, well, what am I out to continue to solve? And I think that it's a really fun, exciting, difficult place to be in. But for me right now, it's the innovation. It's being able to continue to innovate, continue to like create, continue to solve problems that continues to like fuel me on my journey.
Love that. I can't wait to see what's next, brother. We do have this fun segment. And I know we're getting close on time. I don't know where you're at with yours.
I got like
But
15.
perfect, perfect. I've got this segment called "Who is the Smartest Entrepreneur?" Right? If you ever grew up watching "Who Wants to Be a Millionaire," it's very similar. You get five multiple choice questions, and in these questions, you get two lifelines. You get either 50-50 or phone a friend. So you can call
Ooh.
somebody to do whatever you need, right? For help. And but something a little bit different. And when I did it did this with my old podcast, but it was always tough. But the hardest part about my podcast previously was finding these questions and finding the answers. I would have to do a lot of research in it. But now I just take your bio and I throw it to ChatGPT and I say, hey, I need Dave's questions. Now it knows me well enough to know exactly what I'm talking about, and it prints out Dave's questions. It's funny, the first couple of times it would ask me, the questions would be literally about you. And I'm like, no, 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 no. Like, they'll get all these questions right. So these are questions derived from your life, but they're not about you. Or at least from your derived from your bio. Maybe not your
Okay.
life, at least your bio, right? And
Interesting.
some are harder than others. Nick Perrette got screwed. His questions were fucking hard. He got like one right. Then Brandon Vaughn got all layups. He got 5 in a row. Didn't even use a lifeline. But you get 2. You only get to use one of those 2 on one question, though. Okay. So
Got
let's
it.
go ahead and get started. Cue the music. Who is the smartest entrepreneur? All right. Here we go. What is the biggest advantage of direct mail over digital marketing? Is it A, it's cheaper than running Facebook ads? B, it has a higher open and response rate? C, it requires no strategy, just send and win? D, it only works for big brands?
B.
B, just rip it and grip it. No thought process there.
No,
You're just straight up. It's final answer is B.
final
It's
answer.
your final answer. All right, you got it. 1 for 1. Correct answer is B. It's a higher open and response rate. I mean, a lot of times it's open and trash, but okay, whatever. I guess,
Business owners put themselves in the spot where they think that, but it's not necessarily the case.
yeah, not always. Uh, so we'll go on to the next one. What is the most important factor in scaling a service business? Is it hiring as many employees as possible? Is it focusing on getting new customers? Is it building strong processes? Is it ignoring customer retention and always chasing new leads?
B. Final answer.
C, final answer. All right, you got it. See, you're getting a little layups. You better like AI right now. Your AI knows you so well that it's open source, and it said, "Let me help Dave out." I know who Dave Carroll is. I'm gonna give him some layups as well. All
Take
right,
them. Layups are
this
good.
one's a little tougher. I think this one's tough. I had no idea. Um, which company did not start as a direct mail business? Is it A, Victoria's Secret? B, Dollar Shave Club? C, J. Crew? Or D, Harry and David?
A. Victoria's Secret. Final answer.
A, Victoria. Final answer. No, Dollar Shave Club.
I
Can
guess
you believe
Victoria's Secret
Victoria's
does
Secret started as fucking?
magazines, but I thought Dollar Shave Club was all. I guess they were digital.
Yeah, direct mail based
Two,
business is crazy.
2 for 3 from the free throw line.
Yeah, 2 for 3. You got it. All right. What is the best way to make direct mail feel personal? Is it A, sending mass generic flyers to everyone? I'm going to change these as I'm talking to make them harder. Is it B, using handwritten notes and customized messaging? Is it C, sending mail to previous customers? Is it D, including a business card and personalizing it?
I'm gonna guess B. The handwriting.
B, using handwriting and customized messages. Is that your final answer? You want to do
Final answer.
all right. You got it. I even changed C and D to make it a little tougher. It was the complete opposite. The real question was only sending mail to past customers. Uh, and D was including a business card and hoping for the best.
You want a touch in there of like some type of personal touch. You don't want to send mail once, but if you send it 4
Yeah.
times over 8 weeks, ideally one of those is personalized.
Yeah, it's touch points, right? I like it. I like it. All right. So we're moving on to the final question. What is the number one reason businesses fail in their marketing efforts? Is it A, they don't spend enough money? B, they don't track their results and optimize? D, their or C, their competitors are too strong? D, they rely too much on one marketing channel?
I'm gonna say B. Final answer.
Is that your final answer? All right. You got it. You got it. D was a little
4 or
tough.
5 passing grade. I was thinking D. Might be D.
Yeah. Yeah, D was a good one. If you did 50-50, I was gonna make it B and D just to try to make it a little bit harder on you.
4 or 5.
Oh, but so if anybody wants to jump on some data or jump on some dope and reach out to you, how do they get a hold of Dave?
Dopemarketing.com. You don't want to get a hold of me. We got an amazing team that can help out. I do like weekly webinars and strategy stuff with our clients. That's part of what you get when you sign up with Dope for the year. You get access to me, the rest of our team internally to help with like broad strategies in group settings, and then you have a dedicated account manager that knows everything that I know that'll help guide you in your specific industry, vertical, time of year, services you offer. Yeah. So
I
Dope
love
Marketing.
it. Dopemarketing.com. And I love what he says, don't get a hold of him because even when I buy from Dope, I don't buy from Dave. I buy from the guy Dave sent me to, and I still buy from that same person. When I refer people to Dope, I say, do not talk to Dave. You know, Dave runs his business how it should be ran. That the owner is probably the worst person to do these tasks that he's assigned everybody else to do. So let's take that and run with that as an ending note. Is as you scale your business, grow with your business, and delegate properly. But
When and if you go to sell that thing that you're running, the less that you're involved with the day to day, the better.
yeah, there you go. Well, I appreciate you being on, brother. Thank you.
Appreciate you, Al.